run an independent label, Richter Collective. We work with like a wide range of different types of bands from different genres. I'm also a band manager. I manage Castlepalooza and Squarehead, and I also play in a band myself. So it's kind of interesting to see from different types of genres how different it is selling music at shows, and how it's changed over the last few years. For a couple of the smaller releases, kind of for breakthrough artists, to be 60% of our sales would be at gigs, versus the 40 through HMV or independent retailers. And then for some of the bigger acts, it would be a lot less. But some of the bigger acts on our label don't really tour as much, I guess. But yeah, it's becoming kind of increasingly obvious that it is the best way to sell your music, because you can control everything about selling your music at your show, and people are coming to either see it or they've stumbled upon you. So there's really no better place to sell than at a gig. It's kind of every single person that's there is a potential customer. So it is really important that they'd always take merch with them on the road. But obviously we can't force bands. Some bands are just going to be lazy about it. And I'm not going to talk about the splits because we kind of organise different splits between each band. But yeah, no, it's really important, and it is that thing that we would get, to make back our money on a release. We'd mostly make back about 40% just on the launch gig. I know launch gigs, like, they're kind of cheap, or some people see them as, but they're such a good way of making back your initial investment, just in a bulk kind of really quick way of making back your investment. The average budget for a record we do would be around about €6,000 for each release, and for the kind of smaller scale ones, usually the live is the highest, the highest revenue. The kind of breakthrough are the ones that are looking for a breakthrough. That normally that would be on average round about 40 to 60% would be live sales, and the rest then would be through iTunes and all the other.
Question on the front.
Did you say earlier that the bigger acts tour less?
Just on our label. I guess they toured when they were, like, say Redneck Manifesto, they toured a lot when they were younger and kind of established themselves, so we only kind of really start working with them when they were established, especially in the Republic anyway, they do quite good.
Would you sign a band who said at the very outset that they were not a live band, that they simply would not get in the band?
I probably wouldn't have beforehand, but now that I know I don't want to tour myself, I can understand it. Well,
you're more sympathetic.
Yeah, well, more sympathy. No, it would be very hard. They'd want to be kind of like pretty much established, because it's really hard. Like, it's depending on what kind of genre of music as well. Electronic music, I think, is maybe slightly easier if they're not playing live so much.
To my immediate left, Alan Sims started Shine, moved into running the venue, the Stiff Kitten, now responsible for Belsonic. And next to him, Stephen works for MCD. It's a pretty similar thing, to the extent that he's booking a kind of, he's booking shows, a wide range of shows all the time, MCD and venues throughout the south.
We get a lot of acts coming directly to us. Most of our names are in the Hot Press Annual, the yearbook. So obviously our emails will be there as well, and that's the first point of contact for a lot of bands. That would be sort of them pushing themselves towards us, but we would also be just out in bars looking at new bands. We'd be maybe watching bigger acts, and then if we see a support, that might be a route to see them. There's websites like breakingtunes.ie, there's festivals like Hardworking Class Heroes in Dublin that have a lot of new acts there. And it's just generally from speaking to people all the time. One of the things I say to bands that are contacting me quite a lot is, if you're the only person telling me about your band, and you obviously have a vested interest, then my interest is going to be a lot less than if I hear about you in a magazine and a website, and then another promoter tells me that they saw you do a really great set.
And do you ever feel the pressure to kind of book a support that might not necessarily be what you feel is the right thing for the show, but you know, it might just pull another 50 people in the room.
There's several different reasons for putting a band on a support. Sometimes, you know, if you have a 1,000 capacity show and it's sold out, you'll get the record label bringing a support with them, or the record label mandating a support for you. The agent might tell you who to support, but often we get submissions from local bands and then the agent will ask us, can you send some suggestions over? So we'll send a few over that we think musically suit.
The main thing for us, I have to say, is that we take submissions, and because so many bands have music online now, it's really quite easy to go and have a listen and see the sort of thing that they're doing, take a note, and then hope that, you know, a situation does arise whereby you can give them a go. Say, we do a lot of like little sort of local showcases, and you know, even if a band isn't doing anything, we, you know, and if they are sort of hustling and terribly business astute, it's sort of nice to maybe put them on as like third down in an opener and actually check them out and see how they perform in a live setting. And generally, if you do that, you know, quite a few times throughout the year, you'll get one or two that you think, right, well, we can move them up and they can maybe headline a little local show if they're quite good at sort of mobilising their friends and stuff like that, and maybe choosing a bill of other like-minded bands.
I think the loyalty thing and building a good relationships with the bands is important as well, because obviously, unlike a record deal, they're not signed or they're not tied to you in any way, and if someone comes in and gives them a better offer, then if you don't have the loyalty and you don't have the relationship, then there's more chance that will be taken. I mean, the only sort of capacity that works in is the Live Nation model of the likes of Jay-Z and Lady Gaga and so on, and maybe that's something that will come in as live music becomes more and more important, that there'll be some kind of signed contract where you do X amount of shows and you build a band with a promoter. But at the moment, you know, you could work with a band 10 shows in a row and then they get a better festival offer or more money from another promoter and they could be off. So I think just keeping a good relationship and always respecting each other and looking after each other is very important.
So you kind of book with your head and occasionally with your heart.
Absolutely, yeah.
What opportunities still exist for bands that are emerging, for bands that are coming through, and where could some of these people who are thinking about these things in the summer plug in?
I think you need to be smart in your own approach to it, in that if you're like an AC/DC kind of rock and roll band, don't approach the Red Bull stage, because your sort of meat and potatoes rock isn't going to work there. Yeah. Look at what stage you'd be better on and what bands you'd be better playing with, and I would expand that to everything. If you're looking for a manager or a booking agent or
targeted,
you know, yeah, just be smart about it, because one of the things that would annoy us as bookers is if we get an email about every single show we book from the same band over and over again, and you think you're just scatterbombing us, you're not planning anything, you're not doing anything with any sort of subtle approach, it's just trying to get any sort of support. And on one level you do appreciate the endeavour and the effort that they put in, but a lot of the time it just looks like it's not been planned through. In terms of Oxygen, we do have the stages for the newer bands. We ran an IMRO stage which went very well, but they sometimes, whenever it came up against maybe 3 or 4 other stages with big artists, the numbers would suffer quite a lot. So it is one of the problems for new bands, is not just getting on the festival, it's pulling
getting the right start.
So I would approach very carefully and just try and target it.
Questions? Yeah, I see you.
Hi there. I was just wondering, in terms of approaching, obviously yourself the first time, but if you want to give a good example, like that, you know, that you do lots of different types of music, but you're aware that you don't want to bombard, you know, with too much. Okay. How many songs would you put on your demo, or for your first kind of approach?
If a band's like sort of pretty good, and you've got one song that you think it should pretty much shine through to someone that hears a lot of music on a daily basis. I also think it's nice to see like a photograph of how a band look. I know a lot of people probably won't like that, but I do, and what their sort of graphic imagery looks like, or you know, and stuff like that, because I think that's also important. And even it's interesting that a lot of even the younger bands can be very switched on to that sort of thing, and also even the more hustle sort of business side of things. I mean, we had a local band recently approached us, and I thought, I was so impressed with this. It was quite funny. They approached us with a business plan for a gig, and I think they were maybe 19. Wow. And they had like spreadsheets and offered us a deal at door we're dealing.
They offered you a deal?
Yeah. I thought it was great, you know, that formed part of the sort of the package that we got with some tracks on. And,
wow.
Yeah, but it's always nice if you sort of click personally, as well as thinking that this person really is focused and serious about what they want to do, and will appreciate the opportunities that come their way.
So yeah, Liverpool Sound City, for anybody who doesn't know, it's kind of like to the UK what something like South by Southwest or the CMJ. Becky's going to tell you what's happening this year, any opportunities that might exist for you guys to come across as a business or as an artist.
Over the last couple of years, we've had some amazing bands that have come over and played at Sound City from Northern Ireland. And we like to encourage as many applications as we can from here because the quality is generally very high. So yeah, Liverpool Sound City is now the largest festival and conference for new music in the north of UK. So we have 300 artists that showcase over 3 days from the 19th to the 21st of May. The festival itself takes place in 20 different venues in Liverpool city centre. So I don't know how many of you know Liverpool, but the city centre itself is quite similar to Belfast in many ways. It's fairly intimate and all the venues are very, very close together. So people buy a wristband or they buy a delegate pass if they are someone from the music industry, and then they can go and see all the shows. We also do a conference which takes place in the Hilton Hotel, which is by the Albert Dock, and we have just over 1,700 music industry people that go to that, and they range from everyone from labels to managers to promoters, booking agents, media, press, all aspects of the industry. But we do days of networking, so we have lots of people that you can meet and you can talk to one-to-one, and then you can have a drink with them at the end and have lunch with them, and you can kind of really get to know people over the 3 days. A lot of the bands that we have that are new, most of the artists that we have are up and coming, so they're artists that have maybe done a few tours but not really broken much into the UK, certainly from artists that are coming from outside of the touring circuit of England especially.
And is there a cost to delegate if you're a kind of music business wanting to go across?
To say that actually, the delegate price is normally £150, and that gives you access to the conference, all networking events and all the festival. But we're doing a special rate for anyone coming from Northern Ireland, which is £80. So there's a code that I'll give out as well, which you can enter, which gives you the discount. So you basically save nearly £70 on the normal price.
My question is, how important do you feel the links are between cities like Belfast and Liverpool and Sheffield, then that against the likes of Belfast and Nashville?
We personally work with a lot of promoters around the north that we book shows with, so some bands will kind of help them out with other promoter contacts as well, so that when they come to Liverpool they can get other gigs, and that's what we really recommend. I know bands like the Straight Laces, when they came over an Axis of, they did a tour around Manchester and a lot of the other northern cities after they did Liverpool, and yeah, it's just the costs involved in going over to Liverpool. You can get the ferry over, and it's quite, I think it costs about £200 or £300 to take a van over on the ferry, but obviously to go to America, you're talking about flights, you're talking about visas, and it's just a lot more cost prohibitive.